Section 10, voluntary termination. Section 10.1, the right to termination of the lessor shall have the right to, as is an option at any time of the time to time during the basic term on the after 7th anniversary of the basic term, compliance with the date of the termination of the lease with respect to any of all units, provided that in such a termination of less than all units of the functional group across the partnership of the fleet, the lessor shall have the exercise of termination here and under the capable provision contained in other leases with respect to at least 50 railway cars aggregated for the type of including functional group, and 2, no fewer than 25 railway cars of type included in the functional group shall in the aggregate remain subject to the lease to this lease or other leases. 3, such termination shall be made hereunder and other leases pro rata in accordance with the number of the units in such functional groups, such as to each and the less in the lease, and the determination as to which the unit is subject to the termination otherwise is made by the lessor as the random basis with a discrimination base on the maintenance staff's operation conditions of the unit's questions, otherwise the terminated units, if the lessor determines in a good faith and of evidence a certified copy of the resolution adopted for the general partner manager certification executed for the chief financial officer of the general partner and the chief financial officer of the manager of the unit of them have become obsolete and surplus to the lessor's requirements. The leaser has received the officer's certificate from the lessor and the manager to the effect that it has no discrimination section of the terminated use units of the measured against the other units manager fleet, and that the following termination of the lease with respect to terminated units of the units remaining subject to the lease will constitute the pool of the units of sufficient quantity and quality to serve over the remaining basic terms of the covered ratios applicable to the time service termination, and the lessor delivers it at least 120 days prior to the notice of the leaser to the indenture trustee specifying a proposed date of termination for such a unit. It's the termination date within which date shall be rendered the payment date of such determination of the effective termination date upon the lessor's compliance with the section 10 and 2 if some of the but less than all the units of the functional group are designated and terminated use described in such an officer's certificate is non-discriminatory manner of the lessor in which the lessor purposely determines the unit's functional group as are to be terminated units, notwithstanding anything is contained with the contrary that shall be non-determinational with the units and surplus obsolete of the purpose of the lease, if in the termination such a unit is subject to the sublease except for the expressly provided other than here and there, and with no conditions of the lesser right to termination with this lease, the respective terminated units pursuant to section 10.1, so long as the leaser shall not have given the lesser a notice of the election to retain the terminated units in accordance with section 10.3 and the B notice of the prepayment of the equipment notes that shall not be given to the pursuant to section 2.10 the indentured lease. The indentured lessor withdraw the termination notice that are referred to above at any time prior to the 60 day prior to any schedule, provided that the lessor not be exercised in the right of the withdrawal schedule of the determination whether the lease shall continue in the full force and effect, provided that the lessor may not exercise its right to withdraw the termination more than one annually, one more than 4 times the basic term period, irrespective of which is covered thereby. The lessor agrees with their and they withdraw the termination and would reimburse the leaser or any other participant indenture trustee as the after-tax basis for all responsible on out-of-pocket costs, expenses including responsible legal fees, expenses and incurred on any other connection of the termination. Proposed termination section 2.2 sales of equipment during in the period of the date of such a notice given to the pursuant section 10.1 of the termination date of the lessor as not exclusive agent of the leaser expects to provide in section 10.3 that the lessor's sole cost expense shall responsibly benefit the efforts to the bids of the person other than the lessor affiliates the other cash purchases of the terminated units. Any lessor shall promptly, in any event of at least 5 business days prior to the proposed date of the sales certification of the leaser, in writing on the amount of the terms of each such bid proposed at the date of such sale, name and address of the party submitting such bid, unless the leaser shall have elected to retain the terminated units in accordance with section 10.3 terminated date 1. The lessor shall deliver the terminated units excluding any optional servable modifications removed from the lessor pursuant in section 9.10 of the bidder, which shall not be lesser and affiliated lesser, and in avoidance of the doubt of the bidder and maybe customer other than a manager, neither the manager nor the affiliate shall be prohibited to manage the units in the bidder court after the purchase by such bidder, which shall have been submitted by the highest cash high bid to such date, or to as such other bidder of the lesser or leaser shall agree to the subject of the provider of the concurrent receipt of the acts of the leaser of all the amounts owing the leaser pursuant to the next sentence of the person entitled thereto an unpaid supplemental rent due to the before the termination date of the leaser shall, with the recourse of the warranty, except to absence of the lesser lieners, the leaser's lien simultaneously therewith and thereafter all of its right title interest of the terminated units of such bidder the net proceeds and so realized at such a sale period of the retain of the lease, or in addition terminated as the lesser and shall pertain in the leaser as all in the basic rent with respect to the terminated units and due to the payable termination date, exclusive of any basic rent due to the such date, b the access of any kind, one of the termination amount of the terminated units and become imputed with the terminated date over into the net cash sale proceeds after the deduction of all reasonable costs and expenses, including applicable sales transfer and similar taxes, the leaser or other participant in connection with such a sale of the terminated units, C, an amount of equal of the make-whole amount, any of the unpaid repayment premium, respective principal amount of the equipment notes to the prepaid in accordance with Section 210 of the indenture D, and all other rents, including basic rent on such a date, and due the payable there and under with such included with the limitations accumulated to the equity deficiency amount, with duplication of the amounts calculated and above the late and premium interest related to and so forth as though so after receipt of application of all such payments with withdrawal of the reserve account other than the participant shall, entitled to the terms and conditions of the collateral agency agreement, to receive and does receive in taking an account of all payments and basic rent in respect of all such units and the sum of accumulated equity deficiency amount of the late payment interested related thereto and other the amounts of owner participation if no sale shall have occurred, whether the results of the lessor's failure to pay of all the amounts herein and above by otherwise. The lease shall continue with the full force effective with respect to such units of the lesser agrees to the reimburse the leaser and participation of the indenture trustee of all responsible costs and expenses, including reasonable legal fees and expenses incurred by any other thought thereof and in connection with therewith, or provided that if in such sale shall not be have occurred solely because of the lesser failure to pay the amounts hereby above and required, lesser shall have no more right to terminate with the lease with respect to such units. The lesser in action accounting the leaser shall have no liability. The leaser for failure to obtain the best price shall act in sole discretion, shall be under no duty to solicit bid and politically inappropriate, particularly market. The lesser sole's interest in acting in the agent shall be in usable responsibility. The best efforts to sell such units at the highest price of the obtaining the consistent with the terms of the lease. Owner of the partnership shall have the right of non-obligation to obtain the bids indirectly through the agents of other leases. Section 10.3, the retention of equipment by the leaser, notwithstanding to the provisions of Section 10.1 and 10.2, the leaser is irrevocable, electing the written notice of the lesser not later than 60 days after the receipt. The lesser notices the termination to do not sell the terminated units at the termination date, whether upon the lesser shall deliver the terminated units to the leaser in the same manner or condition as in delivery was made from the leaser pursuant to Section 6.1b and 6.2 shall extend the storage rights for the same extent as provided by Section 6.1c, treating the termination date and the termination date of the lease terms with respect to the terminated units to the pay of the leaser and or the person entitled to therein all basic rent, all supplemental rent due and owning the termination date, unpaid and exclusive payment due on such date with respect to the terminated units, and exclusive supplemental rent measured in the make-whole amount unpaid payment payment interest in respect of the terminated units, so that after receipt, the application of all such payments with withdrawal reserve account owner or participation with such entitled under the terms of collateral agency agreement to receive and does receive, taking into account of all payments of the basic rent in respect of all such units, the sum accumulated to the equity deficiency amount of late payment interest related thereto and other amounts then due to the owner of participation. On any termination date, the lessor is required to pay payments pursuant to the preceding sentence. So the lessor shall pay the additional basic rent of the leaser shall be pay a refund or the basic rent in an amount equal to the basic rent adjustment, the absolute value of the negative basic rent adjustment, and is set forth in Schedule 8 4B in the participation agreement for the relative rent payment of the payment date. The leaser elects not to sell the terminated units as is provided in Section 10.3, and the leaser shall pay the cause to be paid an indenture trustee in the amount equal to the amount of multiplying unpaid principal amount of the equipment notice and the outstanding of such date after the reduction therefrom the principal installment, if any of them be paid such a date, the fraction numerator with which shall equipment cost of the terminated units of the denominator in which such agreement and equipment cost of all units that is subject to the lease upon payable to the leaser of the foregoing, the lessor shall pay the leaser amount of the rent equal to the make-whole amount of the unpaid late payment or interest in respect of the principal amount of the equipment notice to be prepared by with all basic rent, including the basic rent due to the termination and supplemental termination date, the supplemental rent due and owing, and providing unless all such amount shall have been paid to the indenture trustee in the termination date, the lease shall continue in the full force effect, and after giving the notice referred to being by the leaser shall fail to pay the amounts required pursuant to the third section in Section 10.3, and the result is therefore the lease shall not be terminated with respect to terminated units. Proposed the termination date, lessor shall X therefore no longer be entitled to exercise the election to retain the terminated units of the reimbursed lease lessor for any reasonable out-of-pocket expenses, including the reasonable legal fees and expenses incurred in attempting to sell the terminated units pursuant to the Section 10, who immediately the leaser exercises such preemptive election, the lessor may an option of any time thereof and prior to the immediately following the rent payment date subject to a new termination notice pursuant to Section 10.1 with respect to the terminated unit, specifying the proposed termination date occurring to the termination date occurring not earlier than 25 days of the date of such a notice. Section 10.4 termination of lease in the event of either X of any of the sales receipts of the lessor Section 10.4 termination of the lease in the event of either of X of any of the sales receipts by the leaser indenture trust of all the amounts provided in Section 10 respect to the terminated units of Y, retention of the terminated units full performance of the B, the leaser and the lessor in the respect of the payments of obligations compliance with 10.3, the compliance by the lease lessors of the other provisions by Section 10, and the obligation of the lessor to pay the basic rent herein under the terminated use shall cease with the lease of the term that the terminated use shall end. Section 10.5 funding of the accounts of termination of the lessor shall not exercise termination upon option under the Section 10 with respect of all units unless either all full amount required to fund the post-lease the term of reserve or action is in use of consumption under the others in such purchase the distribution of all amounts required by the distributed collateral agency of collateral agency agreement will be available for collateral agents to file in the post-lease term reserve account, or B, and addendum pursuant to Section 313 of the collateral agency agreement have been provided.